Hello there, hi viewers. My name is Nana Yayabua. Welcome to another episode of the Nana Yayabua Show. Today I have with me Christelle Ami Dovenizami. Is that it?
That is it. Yeah. Christelle
Oh,
Abidovinizu.
okay, yours is a very quick pronunciation of your
Exactly.
name. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Christelle is an author, translator, educational consultant, and a podcast host as well. And you are West African based in Tanzania, West African
Exactly.
based in East Africa.
Exactly.
Well, it's one motherland, so that is okay. Yes, beautiful. So, before I normally start getting into the nitty gritty of conversations of what you do, I want to understand the person.
Right.
So, where were you born and where did you start your educational journey?
Great. This is a very interesting question. Generally, I like to call myself African, the African girl. The reason being that I was a little bit everywhere my whole
Yeah.
life. I was born, okay, my mom was pregnant when she traveled back to Lomé, or let's say Togo, which is
Hmm.
a motherland. And then I was
Yes.
born there. So after
Yes.
a few months, she went back to Cote d'Ivoire where she was residing. And then I grew
Okay.
up in Cote d'Ivoire till the age of 17, 18. That's when I
Yes.
moved back to my country of origin, which is Togo. And I
Okay.
spent there for some time. And later on, I moved on to Ghana. And from Ghana to Cameroon. And from Cameroon, it was a long journey, long process, and so on and so forth. So this is basically me. And for my primary school and everything, I basically did it in Cote d'Ivoire because I grew up there.
Okay.
And
Yes.
university, a part of my academic studies were made like in Togo and also in
Mhm.
Cameroon. Yeah,
Okay. So wherever there's a francophone, you were there.
exactly. That is it. Exactly.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
So you are a well-traveled West African girl. That
exactly.
is great. That is great. And right now you're in Tanzania. I'm
Yes.
interested. That is Anglophone.
Yeah,
How
that is it.
how how did you end up in Tanzania?
This is a beautiful question. And then that brings me back to explaining like the second part of my life, which is
Yes.
like I'm also like a little bit from Ghana due to my
Yes.
grandmother. So you have like the family of my dad are also from Ghana. So I
Yes.
spent like quite a long time in Ghana as well. And that's the reason why I speak also English.
Mm-hmm.
So in the course of my studies, like as an interpreter, I also
Mm-hmm.
came here in Tanzania for an internship, and this is like how I discovered this beautiful land of Tanzania. I fell in love with the country, by the way, especially
Beautiful.
because I am a nature lover. And you see
Yes.
that that's the reason why my book is mainly around environmental issues, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really in love like with nature and all the related issues. So I found myself here in Arusha. Arusha
Mm-hmm.
is a city in Tanzania. And because of everything that they're doing, the effort, the actions that they are doing in order to protect the environment, I really fell in love with it, and then I wanted to really settle here. I went back after that, after the short period of like my internship here. But
Yes.
fortunately, during that period, I met the director of a school, and because I have that background in education, I
Mm-hmm.
have like various background in international baccalaureate, Cambridge, Montessori, and all these things. So she was really interested in my method. Fortunately, during
Mm-hmm.
that time, I was like working with a couple of kids because I was stranded due to COVID-19. So I was just taking
Yes.
advantage of this moment to work with the kids around my area. So whenever they were getting bored at home, I would just like just get them like when I'm free, reading stories, doing some painting, trying to explain to
Yes.
them some basic concept that they were finding difficult. So she observed that and she was like, "Oh no, I want to know more about this. How do you do that? Like you have to tell me more." And at that moment, I told her, okay, apart from being an interpreter, I'm also an educator. She was like, oh, that makes like, or it piques my curiosity. So I want to know more
Yeah.
about you. And during that time, I got the chance like to even train some teachers here. So when I went back, I got the chance to come back just because of that school, which wanted me like to continue working with them as an educational consultant and also a program coordinator. That is how I
Good.
found myself here in this
In
beautiful
Tanzania.
land
So
of
what
Tanzania.
what did you study in the university?
Good. So I started like some English to read English at university. So I was doing American literature first, and after my BA in American literature, I did education. So a BA in education.
Education.
Is
Okay.
So I like was working like for many years before I had a scholarship from the African Union to further my
Mm-hmm.
studies. And at that particular moment, because I've always been interested in languages, so I really wanted to
Mm-hmm.
become a translator and interpreter. So I got that opportunity from the African Union through a
Mm-hmm.
scholarship to go to Cameroon
Okay.
for 2 years, and that's where I completed my master degree in conference
Mm-hmm.
interpreting. Yeah,
Oh, beautiful. Oh, wow. Girl, you are something else. Well, welcome to the show. I didn't
thank
know
you, thank
the
you.
magnitude of your background, but I am honored to have you on the Nana Yaya Boy show. Before
Same
my
here.
next question, guys, if you have not subscribed to this show, please do so either on Spotify podcast or on YouTube so that I can grab beautiful stories like this and keep bringing them to you. So we are in the studio with Christelle Zami, the children's book author of Zami
Yeah,
series. Beautiful. So let's get into your book.
sure.
Environment. What inspired you to write about the environment for children? I know you've talked about you having been interested in nature in
Yeah.
Tanzania, but aside from that, your interest in nature, okay, it's you. But what was it that drove you to write how do you call it? Stories like particularly like Zamis for children.
Great, great. This is very interesting, like because I said that I am an educational consultant,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been really working for many years with children. I got to know them, I got to understand them, I got to understand also like their interest. And I know that generally speaking, children can act on the basis of what they are interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, very often when it comes to these talks around global warming, climate change, we never include children in this aspect. Now, because I have that background and I was also nourishing this desire to become an author,
Mm-hmm.
especially starting with children's literature.
Mm-hmm.
So I met some friends a couple of years ago, like in Ghana. We were just having discussions around everything, like
Mm-hmm.
what is our hidden dreams, or what do we think about doing in the future, apart from everything we were already involved in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I talked about it because I have a lot of stories. I generally write stories for kids, for
Mm-hmm.
drama, for this and that and that. And I never really thought about like publishing a book.
Yes.
So I was having a couple of stories that I already worked on. And because I got interested, really interested in like environmental issues, I started also writing that story about this little girl who wanted to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when I met my friends and they were like, so if you're interested in that, so it's worth it. Can you try? I was like, no, that is just my stories, like, stories
Yeah.
that I can read to my nephews, my nieces, little kids around me. But I never thought that it can be of interest. And then they told me something like, we can strike a deal. This deal will be as simple as this. If we read the story and we feel like it's interesting enough
Mm-hmm.
and it can create impact,
Mm-hmm.
then let us publish it. If it is
Okay.
not, we are going to give you a frank, a genuine feedback.
Yeah.
And this is how we started the whole journey. And then I accepted at that moment to actually allow them to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And they found it particularly interesting. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
but why are you hiding? This is a treasure. It is so valuable. It can really create impact in the society, especially because you love kids, you love children. This is what
Yes.
motivated you into
Yes.
writing that, and the love for nature as well. I am an adventurer, and that's exactly why the main character in this story, is also an
Mm-hmm.
adventurer because I really love discovering places,
Yeah.
and I'm always like happy whenever I am in nature. So if you give me a choice, like between being in big cities and being in a small city where I can like go to nature, I can go to the forest, to the bush, I can see trees, I can go to parks, see animals. I would honestly choose to be like in a place where I can have access to nature. I had the choice, like, we have Dar es Salaam here, which is a very big
Yes.
city.
Yes.
Then I have Arusha, and all of a sudden I fell in love with Arusha.
Arusha.
Exactly because of this opportunity for me to go to parks, to see
Mm-hmm.
animals, walk on the street, and then see trees. for me is really refreshing and it's really, really good. Yeah, for me.
I, I,
That
I,
is one.
I think I fully understand what you are saying, because for myself sitting here, I also
Mhm.
moved from a big city to a small
Yeah.
town with a lot of
Yeah,
trails and close to a water.
exactly.
Yes, so I do a lot of walking. So I feel that's why I keep smiling, because it's like she's speaking my language. I fully understand that.
True. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I think that the next question is that for you to write about, aside from your interest in nature and everything, how do you think these stories can specifically contribute to children's understanding of our present environmental issues? And what are some of the environmental issues that you've seen in Ghana, Togo, Ivory Coast, and Benin, and you were in Cameroon, and right now in Arusha?
Yeah,
So you have a whole host.
exactly.
Yes.
So
What do you
actually,
think some of the specific issues are that we could
yeah.
work on? Yeah.
Great. In the book, for example, I'm focusing on four stories. Like the
Hmm.
first one is Ami and the Sun.
Yeah.
So in Ami and the Sun, for example, is basically about global warming.
Hmm.
And the second one is Ami and the animals.
Hmm.
So it's concentrating or focusing on poaching and so on
Hmm.
and so forth. And the third one is about Ami and the moon, the role of all the elements of nature and how
Hmm.
it can impact human beings. But there's something very interesting about Ami and the moon that I'll surely come back on when I'm like, breaking down all the
Yeah.
various stories. And the very last time is all about like Amy visits the recycling factory.
Hmm.
The reason why I have it as a fourth story is that it's a way for her to take action after
Hmm.
reflecting on everything she came across, like
Hmm.
she noted in her community.
Yeah.
She realized that at the certain point we need to take actions about how concretely can I
Hmm.
then by recycling, by reusing, and so on and so forth, reducing as well. So
Yes.
now, starting from the very first story, Ami and the Sun, as I
Hmm.
said before, very, very often, like when you talk about global warming to a child who is maybe like 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, all the way to 10 years old, sometimes it's a bit difficult for them to really grasp that concept of global warming.
Yes.
So, how about saying, for example, to a little child that the sun is getting angry because of human
Okay.
action, because we haven't been taking care of the environment. Because in their book, the little girl, for example, starts a story by explaining the fact that she loves the sun.
Hmm.
She used to be woken up by a gentle sun ray.
Hmm.
The gentle sun rays were waking up every morning, waking her up every morning. But all of a sudden, she realizes that the sun was like way too hot. So, in
Yes.
her understanding of the child, she feels that the sun is now angry at human beings. Why is there is no gentle as it
Hmm.
used to be, but now it's harsh and hard and hard and
Hmm.
scorching. So now I have to meet the sun and understand why all of a sudden he has changed the way of like, shining on us. So this is where she will start the
Hmm.
journey. But the beauty of all these things is that the journey will show that all the elements of nature are interconnected because she will definitely
Hmm.
have to meet several elements that are determining the weather condition. She has to meet
Hmm.
water. She has to meet the tree, a lot of trees on the way. She has to meet air. She
Hmm.
has to personify them for kids to understand that if only they were having feelings, how would they feel about some of the actions we were taking?
Hmm.
Because they don't have feelings, they
Hmm.
cannot talk to us. But if only they were having feelings, how would they feel? That is why it's some of the elements in the book, you notice that the elements of nature are talking, are expressing their feelings.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
understand that they're interconnected. Now, when it comes to the
Okay.
aspect of animals, almost the same, like animals like really suffering
Hmm.
due to human actions. So it also shows that whatever we do has an impact not only on us as human beings, but also on any other element of nature, including animals. And we know
Hmm.
that children love animals. Some of them have pets, and like so during that moment I was
Yeah.
talking about pet, how she was taking care of those pets, for kids to understand that we can all contribute to protecting environment, no matter
I'm
our
going to
age.
make you laugh. I thought
Yeah,
African pets ended up in soups.
this is very interesting at times it happens. But like I'm so passionate about the way like children, no matter like the community they come from, have that particular interest for animals, like playing with them,
Yeah.
cats and dogs and even goats and
Yeah.
things like that. So this is what I was trying
And
to
please don't keep a goat as a pet in an African household.
And that is true. It's like quite unfortunate. And this is one of the reasons why we really have to raise awareness when it comes to the
Yes.
importance of this element of nature and the fact that as human beings,
Mm.
we need to learn to take care of all these things. Because I remember in the book at a certain point, the accent was put on the fact that she was really taking care of these animals. She was understanding their feelings. She would not spend
Yeah.
one day without feeding them. It just was something very
Mm-hmm.
important as well. If we want to take care
Mm-hmm.
of animals, then we have to be able to know that it is also a responsibility altogether. It's either we don't have them at all, but we
Mm-hmm.
have them and we take care of them. Yeah. Now I
Okay.
was talking also about one point. I don't know whether you allow me to chip in and then just quickly mention that
Yeah,
part.
go ahead.
It
Yes.
was like about the importance of the moon. When I
Mm-hmm.
in the third chapter, like the third story, there was a part
Yes.
that really like caught the attention of so many people who read that book.
Yeah.
Amy at a certain because of like all these disappointments that she felt due to human
Mm-hmm.
action, suggested to
Mm-hmm.
a parent that how about human beings are leaving the earth and going to settle on the moon, like to start all over afresh. Of course, the parents will explain to her that due to the fact that like the moon is not really endowed with some of the characteristics or elements or features that we have on Earth, life is
Mm-hmm.
not yet fully possible there. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, there is a question that the daddy will ask her that will make her reflect. And really, that is some of the things that I want everybody, including children, to reflect on. So he will ask her, it's not about where we find ourselves, but it is about our mindset. How do you take care of wherever
Mm-hmm.
you are, no matter where you are? So if we are not able to take care of the earth, we can even
Yeah.
move, we can relocate, we
And
can
we'll
go to the
still replicate the same mistakes.
exactly.
Yes.
So how about us changing the way we take care of our environment? So it was something powerful that I really wanted children to understand. And even at school, or maybe
Yes.
whenever I visit schools, when I read that part, I always lay emphasis on it. When it comes to tidying up the environment, you are done using the place. Are you sure you keep it clean? How do you keep it for other people to come and use it? Those petty things are also very important, like, to raise whenever we are dealing.
It's a transformational mindset. Yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah,
Beautiful. Thank you for adding that into it because that is one of the key things that I've also been
yeah,
grappling with is a
yeah.
change in mindset, especially amongst us Africans. That
Yes.
how do we call it? To
Yeah.
make things better, to make our lives better, because the mindset is everything that either helps
Yeah.
us grow or not grow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
so
Totally agree.
the the power of stories. I've always loved stories. I'm an author myself, and with this podcast and talk show, I'm all to share stories with wider world,
Sure.
or the stories like what
Yeah.
you write with with the wider world. But
Yeah.
do you think storytelling can develop a sense of responsibility towards the environment? And
Indeed.
have you seen that in
Indeed.
action?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, it's really key. Children love stories, and generally speaking, like whenever we tell stories to children, whether they're moral stories or whatever stories we are telling them,
Mm-hmm.
they remember it for a long time. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of it. Not only they remember it, but they always think about the way they can apply it to their own situation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that sometimes ago, like whenever I read stories, generally speaking, you will see that
Mm-hmm.
after some time when you interact with the same children, they will remind you of what you said before. When
Mm-hmm.
we're reading that story, you said that. Oh, that's what I was trying to do. So somehow, somewhere, children are interested in something, and that thing is a way to convey a message, a
Mm-hmm.
key message that can impact them in an
In their
enduring way
life,
and
yes.
sustainable way. And this is exactly the reason why I chose this channel
Mm-hmm.
to convey that powerful message that is like how to take care of the environment. Yeah.
Beautiful. Great. So, Are there any particular writing method, tricks, or whatnot, or strategies or techniques that you use to write these stories so that they are engaging and impactful?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, as I said before, everything that we have to do, no matter what we are doing, we really have to take into consideration the target audience.
Mm-hmm,
And so, especially when you are an author, always take into consideration your target audience,
mm-hmm,
because at the end of the day, you're writing for them,
mm-hmm,
to impact them, to
mm-hmm,
create awareness. So if they are not interested in whatever you're doing, there is no point at all in trying it.
mm-hmm,
So whenever I'm writing, because I'm already in the field of
mm-hmm,
education, I know the different levels of kids, what they can read at a certain age,
mm-hmm,
what they can read, what is right for them to know about, and what is not right for them to know about.
mm-hmm,
So all these things were involved really in the process. And when it comes to the language, also the language level, I made sure that the language also level, the language level is also basic, something that they can easily read, even if they don't have an adult around them to help them. I also made sure I have a glossary in the book. So when you after each chapter, there's a glossary for new
mm-hmm,
word that I believe that they also need to know about, because reading is all about not only the excitement
mm-hmm,
about discovering something new we didn't know about, but also the vocabulary, because they also need to improve as they move on. Because like the more they read, the better they become. They
mm-hmm,
become better speakers and so on and so forth. There are so many skills that they are developing.
mm-hmm,
So now those are all the tools that I put together. So whenever I was writing, and this came in a gradual process, it's not something that I just wrote overnight.
mm-hmm,
So I will think about an aspect of a story that I believe can interest them. I'll pen it, and then later on I will go through it. Maybe like remove whatever I feel is useless,
mm-hmm,
make it be read by. It's very also very important. Whenever you're reading, get kids, or maybe like especially for children's literature, it's very
mm-hmm,
important for me personally. I strongly believe that this process is key. Trying to let some kids read it. Let
mm-hmm,
them read, no matter the stage where who you are. It can be like the basic stage. You now started the story. Let them read and see whether they're interested, whether there is a part that they don't really agree with, or maybe
they
see
don't
their reaction.
understand. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm,
See their reaction and build on that reaction.
mm-hmm,
I honestly, the reaction of the kids, the various reactions that I got helped me make the book better.
mm-hmm,
Rewrite some parts, improve some parts, and all these things are very important. So as an author, always make sure you take into consideration the level of your target, or maybe the interest of your
mm-hmm.
target audience. It's really key.
Beautiful, because many a times when adults are writing children's literature, or adults that write children's literature, I believe we write like we are the children processing
Exactly.
it. Yes, not
Exactly.
the children are the end processing it. So it's what we create to give them. It's not a say symbiotic relationship
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
they reviewing to make sure they understand as well. Good.
Yeah.
So we're coming from a continent that love stories.
Mhm. Exactly.
In fact, I cannot say no part of this continent love stories. Everywhere
True.
in the world
Yeah.
love stories. But where
Yeah.
we coming from, I am particularly aware
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
stories. Somebody
Yeah.
can just stop you and give you a story of their life, and you may never meet them ever
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Or
Yeah, yeah.
somebody may stop you on the road and give you a
Mhm.
story of what you've just done, and they don't know you from Adam.
That is true. Yeah, yeah.
How did our traditional or oral stories influence you in this writing, and you as Christelle, the
Yeah.
writer, the author?
Exactly. It's true. Like, this is the beauty of the whole thing. And if I decided to write like stories instead of any other type of like or genre of books,
Yeah.
is also because of this like background. I'm an
Mm-hmm.
African girl. I grew up listening to several stories. I
Stories.
know the
Yeah.
setting in which we generally listen to stories.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, you see that I was talking about children gathering under trees, listening to an
Yes.
old woman, a wise woman, because
Yes.
generally in our cultures we always have this grandma or this grandpa who is there to tell us a story, or our mothers or our aunties like telling us stories,
Yes.
something interesting we want to hear. And this
It,
is where it started from. As a
yeah.
child, too, I remember like my mom and the sister, whenever they were together in the evening, they would like kind of like be, they would start talking, both of them.
Justin.
Exactly. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, they'll remember that they have stories for us, and they will start
Yes.
telling us stories. We will laugh for it for a long time. And those are
Yes.
things that we don't forget about. So even when you find
Mm-hmm.
yourself sad and you still remember these stories, like they make you
Yes.
laugh, somehow,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. So it shows that it creates a big impact. And that's the reason why I chose to write stories for those kids, and especially
Mm-hmm.
put that message, convey that message about environmental issues through a story,
Mm-hmm.
because I know how like stories can really impact kids. They can also attract them.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the reasons why I did it that way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Great, great, great. Now, with all this, being an author on the continent,
Indeed.
talk to me.
Yeah. So if I may ask again, the question is like just to talk a little bit about like those people who
No,
inspire me, or
and not necessarily who
okay.
inspired you, but being an author on the continent, the
Oh
challenges of
yes,
publishing,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. That is a very interesting question. It's
Because
honestly not
you
easy.
already know my challenge trying to get the
Exactly.
book.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I want
exactly.
to know more about
Exactly.
that and
It's not
the,
easy.
how do we call it? In the first place, you did say a little bit about how, the connection of
Yeah,
how you got in touch with these,
yeah,
but if you could actually delve into it so that
yeah,
if there are other young,
yeah,
authors or
yeah,
writers,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
am getting a sense from on the continent,
Exactly.
which I'm
Yeah,
very grateful, and
great. Yeah.
it excites me. You guys excite me so much.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Yes, so that they could have an idea some of the challenges and
Yeah.
how to overcome them and whatnot. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
becoming an author in Africa is really not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the general context where we know that Africans don't generally like reading. This is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
We rarely read. So even like selling a book is already challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have like to find a way to create that interest, to advertise a lot, and so on and so forth. But let's start from
Mm-hmm.
the very beginning, the whole process altogether. Copyright is not really something that we really grabbed so far. We are still
Mm-hmm.
far behind when it comes to like copyright. You can have
Mm-hmm.
your material, your piece of work, something you put a lot of effort in, and somebody can overnight take it away from you. So you always have to really, really be careful. Getting the
Mm-hmm.
people you can trust and
Mm-hmm.
trust your work too is really
Mm-hmm.
challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
the good thing about me is that
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, the same people who tend to be my publishing house also were my friends. So we knew each
Okay.
other. So they encouraged me, and then we started the work afresh, like from the very beginning till the end. Which like there was already
But
that.
so where are they based?
They are based, okay, they have three branches, but they are based in Ghana. They have a branch in the US, and then now they are setting one in Kigali. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is called
Uh,
Bolingo Consulting. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So they are specialized not only in interpretation translation, but also like in publishing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. So your background, dedication, work, everything just gave you that opportunity to meet these people. Yes. Uh,
Exactly.
and this is
Exactly.
where I'm going to add that some for those watching from any part of the world, the investment you make into yourself is very important for the
Mhm.
outcome that you can get. Because
Exactly.
if, for instance, you have not made this investment into yourself to
Yeah.
accumulate all this and actually put in the work, they wouldn't have seen that opportunity or that spark
Exactly.
in you to
Yeah.
invest in
Yeah.
your dreams of becoming
Yeah.
an author as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we've talked about the challenges.
Yeah.
You didn't have much challenges. I'll say the path
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
laid laid for
Exactly.
you. The path was laid for you. But should you advise a young and upcoming author,
Mm.
what would you tell them?
Okay. So one thing is sure is that I'll really tell them like they should believe in what they're doing, and they
Or
should always.
I should rephrase, not tell them, share with them.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes, that is
yes.
fine. So, whenever you're passionate about something, especially when it comes to writing, put your
Mm-hmm.
heart at it. And talking about writing is not just about like writing things anyhow just because you believe that you have to write, but you
Mm-hmm.
really have to know the reason why you're
Mm-hmm.
writing. Because like I remember that I was having that discussion where I told someone, like we all have something to share in this life. There is
Yes,
always something key that we want to share. When
yes.
I was still young, like maybe 17, 18, I remember that one big brother from another family, that's how I generally call him, told
Mm-hmm.
me one day you have a book to write. And in that book, you are going to pen a lot of things. Of course, I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of books that I'm also planning to share. Those are books about the story of my life and other things. So it
Mm-hmm.
shows that there is always something
Mm-hmm.
special, valuable we want to share with people. And
Mm-hmm.
if we believe that sharing with people means writing a book, do it. If that is
Mm-hmm.
your passion. If you believe that is having podcast, do it. If you
Mm-hmm.
believe that just having like a channel on YouTube to share your stories, to
Mm-hmm.
impact people, to create a change in your society, do it.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you do, just believe that if it's good enough, of course, people are going to recognize that value for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you should never,
Yeah.
never like belittle what you have. I belittled my work for way too long. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I'm thinking about like the feedback I'm receiving, I'm just wondering like, why did I belittle
So you
my
didn't
work?
trust your work.
Exactly. I downplayed all the comment, the praise that I was receiving because I was like, that is just like for fun. It's nothing special. So we have those talents as well that we should showcase. We should let
Mm-hmm.
people tell us what they think about it. Of course, I'm not encouraging also all people to be pompous about everything that they have, believe that they're on top of the world. But let people discover you and let people give you comments and accept this positive feedback they are giving you, because
Mm-hmm.
those are the kind of things that you can take and make your life better, or maybe become somebody who is going to create a huge impact in your society.
Yeah.
And I
I,
trust it because I went through this process. Yeah.
yeah. You've touched on a key point, especially when it comes to motivation and
Yeah.
coaching people in in life in general, that and within our African context, is that we love to belittle people and we
Yeah.
love to pull people's self-confidence down. So
Exactly.
being able to stand strong and believe in yourself is
Yeah.
equally important in
It is. Yeah.
getting to
Yeah.
that next step where you need to be.
Exactly.
Wow,
Exactly.
beautiful. Hey, Christelle, finally. So if
Yeah.
somebody is looking for some of these books, children's literature, African children's literature, because that is an area of children's literature that is highly unexplored.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I did my master's in education, and part of my focus was on Black Canadian children's literature,
Yeah.
which is also still in the works. Unlike the
Exactly.
US has a lot of children's literature for
Yeah.
Black children's literature,
Yeah.
but for Black Canada, we still
Yeah.
have Black people writing for us. But on the continent, I'm still discovering
Yeah.
authors like
Yeah.
you who
Yeah.
focus on children's literature.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say a big thank you. And the encouragement of children to read is
Yeah.
highly important.
Very
My
important.
issue with Africa is often that reading is just in the
Yeah.
academics,
Yeah.
and thereby self development falls by the wayside. But I will
Exactly.
also highly encourage that books like yours is also for self development
Yeah.
from
Exactly.
even
Mm,
parents
definitely.
reading
Def-
it, yes,
yeah. Yeah.
and breaking it down to their children,
Yeah.
having that
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes both ways. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a what question did I want to ask you? That question just flew out of my mind. Crystal, the question flew out of my mind. I believe that Okay. So how, oh, I believe the question was about whether you having reading series with children in Tanzania and or
Yeah,
around different parts of Africa, the continent. I
exactly.
can't put you in one country because you're a woman who goes from country to country. So, which is
Exactly.
amazing, which is very beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. So
Hmm.
I did do it. I did that. I went to a couple of schools around here, starting from
Hmm.
Tanzania because I'm based here.
Yes.
It was quite easier for me to do that. So I
Hmm.
was invited from some schools around where I went to read the story to kids,
Hmm.
and I would just narrate like one quick example. Like I have even like more than three examples like that. But one
Yes.
that really like touched me more is that before I got there, first of all, the children started like Googling, trying to find me on Google, try to find me on LinkedIn. So they knew a little bit about my background. So they knew
Okay.
everything I was involved in education, interpretation, translation, and
Yeah.
everything. They knew
Yes.
everything about me. And then they started drafting a lot of questions. And
Oh
what I was
boy.
like inspired by this, they read the book, they read the whole book, so they were having questions for specific part. What did I choose to say that? What did I
Yes.
choose to talk about this? What did I? And
Yes.
finally, the last one was like when they talked about like how can they become authors like me? You see, so they
Whoa. The
beyond
impact.
exactly, they went beyond the message itself, the content. They also talked about all the things. I was like, yeah, and this is exactly what I want to achieve. I want a
Yes.
situation where the kids can see me as a role model, and then they
Mm-hmm.
can also apply some of the good things that they are learning from the book,
Mm-hmm.
and it can also impact their decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because like so far, maybe like you ask a couple of kids that maybe like less than 10 years old, what do you want to become when you grow up? You grow up, and some of them will just tell you doctor because they are used to tell like to be told that doctors, or maybe like I don't know, like they are just some kind of specific
No,
career.
it's the
Like
colonial system. Doctors,
exactly, yeah,
engineers, lawyers,
that's the thing. Exactly,
nurses, teachers.
exactly. Great,
It is a boxed
which is true.
system. If you're an author,
Exactly,
you are poor.
that is
We
it.
still
Exactly,
haven't given writers and authors
that is it.
the
Yeah,
respect deemed and
yeah,
the
yeah,
financial
yeah.
remuneration that is
Exactly.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
This is
highly
true.
invested
So
in your
those are the kind of things that,
podcast.
yeah. No problem, exactly. So I do mine in French, and Adi, who is also like my colleague, she does hers in English. So actually, like
Hmm.
in Prestataire Linguistique d'Afrique, we talk to interpreters and translators. We talk mainly about some of the challenges that we are
Yes.
facing in the field of languages, and we talk about all these things like
Hmm.
how to become a better interpreter. Especially, we lay emphasis
Hmm.
more on African languages. The reason being that we know that a
Yes.
lot of content, we don't create much content in African languages. And that's exactly the reason why we even decided to
Yes.
do it that way. So that we can like
In
get that
French.
interest for everybody to understand that our languages too are very rich. There's some of the things we know you knew nothing. I remember that one day I had an interview with a lady from Togo. She's also an interpreter and translator. She's also a linguist. And she told me so many things about my language that I believed I knew so much about that I didn't even know.
Oh,
It
wow.
was so interesting, to interview her from time to time. We're going in there, we're
Yeah.
coming out, and then it was so beautiful. And those are some of the things that we want people to get to know. Like our languages should not be something we are ashamed of. We should be
Hmm.
proud to speak them wherever we find
Hmm.
ourselves. And then
Yes.
I kept on telling a couple of friends here that I'm really proud of the fact that they really value Swahili. And this is exactly one
Yes.
thing we really value about Togo and Ghana and Nigeria. There are some countries in West Africa we can personally like, I'm proud of because at least they value their culture. There are other
Hmm.
countries when you go there, you don't even know whether they even have a culture on their own. And
Mm.
these are some of the things I really like we have to look into. So the podcast
Hmm.
talk a little bit about all these things, like
Oh, that is beautiful.
and that
I
is
wish.
exactly that is exactly the reason why the book, by the way, is translated. Like we have 7 languages overall. So apart from
Okay.
French, English, and Arabic, we do
Hmm.
have Ewe, we have
Okay.
Twi, we have Zulu,
Okay.
we have
Okay.
Swahili. So we
Okay.
We didn't want to make
Okay.
it, and now we are working on the project like with Kinyarwanda, which is a language from Rwanda. So we really wanted
Mm-hmm.
to put emphasis on African languages, so that even if the children speak their native languages,
They
they'll
can
still be
read
able
it.
to have access to it. Yeah, exactly.
I wish I could speak Kiswahili, and I
Yeah.
wish I didn't let my French die. If ever my French teacher ever comes
Yeah.
across this
Yeah.
Monsieur Alfonso, it's like, oh, Bernadette. Oh, I let my French go to
Yeah.
the grave. I need to resurrect it back. Yes. But this conversation is beautiful for me because I
Yeah.
remember before I got into the sciences when I was in high school,
Yeah.
SS, then I really wanted to do English literature and
Mhm.
French
Yeah.
because I had the dream of working with the UN.
And
How do so I
yeah.
always say I'm a storyteller,
Yeah.
somebody who loves literature, who
Yeah.
actually ended up doing nursing,
Uh-huh.
but everything aside from that, doing that as a profession, everything else has got to do with literature,
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
storytelling.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it all is that I just merge it all into one and
Exactly.
then use
Yes.
it in my
That's the beauty of
profession
it.
as well.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have my dream job.
Yay.
So you have my dream job. I
Yeah.
put the languages on the
Sure.
side. Yes. I will say do not stop. It is
Yeah.
very, very
Thank
inspirational and
you.
continue writing.
Thank you.
I have a sense that the platform you are approaching a huge platform that is very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
necessary. That is necessary.
Yeah.
And like the right people found you, the other right people are also going to find you, and that
Mhm.
voice for the children
Mhm.
is going to magnify.
Thank you so much.
uh, you're very welcome, my dear. Do you have any last words for our viewers? Our viewers are mainly Ghana, Nigeria,
Yeah.
the US, some in Canada, the UK, and I don't know how we find some in Vietnam, but
Mhm. That is
yes,
wonderful.
Vietnam as well.
Ah,
Don't ask me. I have no idea.
yeah.
Yes.
Great. So, if I can say something, is like to lay emphasis on the importance
Mm-hmm.
of reading, because honestly, I've always been impacted by reading. Reading made so many changes in my life. Talking about the
Mm-hmm.
way I speak, the way I talk, the way I think, it always
Mm-hmm.
comes from what I read. Reading is
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. So if you have children from wherever you are, please
Mm-hmm.
encourage your children to read from the tender age, because it doesn't come
Mm-hmm.
like overnight to develop that love
Mm-hmm.
for reading. If you want your children to
Mm-hmm.
become bookworms, then you have to
Mm-hmm.
start at a tender age. Read it for them whenever they are going to bed, whenever they are free, whenever
Mm-hmm.
you're in your car, right, and driving. Tell them stories. Let them read. Just buy books for them. If you're a child
Mm-hmm.
and you find it difficult to read, start by choosing the book you're interested in. Read little by
Mm-hmm.
little. You can do it depending on your pace. If you are not ready to read like more than 10 pages per day, no problem. You can start from one and two. And the more you do it, the better you become at it, the more interest you develop in it. So
Mm-hmm.
honestly, reading is key, and I'm really encouraging everybody around the world to read. Now, when it comes to environmental issues, I want them to know that is not only a problem
Mm-hmm.
that concerns adults, but it also concerns children, because if they understand this concept and they grow up with it, at a certain point, we not
Mm-hmm.
even need to talk about or to raise awareness, because the people we want to raise awareness with are already aware. All we do need to
Mm-hmm.
do to give them the means to start acting to end
Mm-hmm.
this scourge that we are facing currently, which is climate change.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And before we go, the difficulty of getting books or the accessibility to books in on the continent is also challenging.
Exactly.
So whilst we are also encouraging people to read, I'll also highly encourage those that have that could share
Yeah.
to share. And if you could buy books and donate it to school libraries
Yeah.
or community libraries, or even create a small library in your
Correct.
home
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
community people, that is a will highly impact the children. I know a friend of
Exactly.
mine, Anna Edu, is working with libraries,
Yeah.
in Ghana, and Sylvia Morrison,
Yeah.
and the direct impact on these youth is so amazing.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's so
Yeah.
amazing looking at the next generation
Yeah.
of Africans on the
Yeah.
continent growing up with that. So I have seen the direct impact of it.
Yeah.
And I wish and hope that other African countries will also look at, creating those small changes. They may be
Yeah.
small, but they aren't small. They have huge
Exactly. Yeah.
impact on us.
Definitely.
Christelle, Dovene, what is the
I mean,
meaning of that?
that is it. Like Dovene, let me start with the army. So as I said in the very beginning, Ewe is my mother tongue. So in my community, in my
Amizama,
tribe, I'm
Saturday
exactly.
born.
So I'm a Saturday born. That is it. Now, when it comes to Dauphiné, Dauphiné is full of meaning. Dauphiné means supporter, give that
Oh,
impetus to other people. And my mom
oh,
always
okay.
usually tells that story like, your sister was all alone when she was born. She was the first born. I'm the second born. She was
Yes.
always lonely. She was sick. And as soon as you were born, the first day she started singing and singing and singing. You're like,
You
no,
brought
even
happiness.
exactly. My mom said when I was pregnant, she was always looking forward to the baby to come. Like, she was excited about
Yes.
everything. So she decided to give me that name, like, come and support your sister, come and give them that joy
Dove.
that she's looking for.
Okay. And you pronounce it Dovene.
Dovene, yeah, Dovene.
And how would they ever pronounce it?
Yeah, Dovene.
Dovene. Okay, so
Dovene.
that's where
Yeah,
the power comes in. Dovene.
exactly.
Dovene.
Indeed.
I want the one with the power. Oh my goodness. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to make you laugh so much, but thank you so much for agreeing to
Okay.
us, guys. We've come to the end of another session with me tickling our beautiful host, Christelle Amidovene Zami, author
Oh,
of the
thank
Zami
you.
children's book. You can I'm going to put a link into
Yeah.
the below, so that you
Mm,
can find it, and you could how to call it, purchase a copy or copies
exactly.
to support your community or communities on the
Exactly.
continent, and
Yeah.
the author as well. Highly
Yeah.
encourage you to keep writing, and
Thank
we
you.
will. Yes. Thank you very much, guys.